everyone, and welcome to Open House. I'm Margie O'Brien, alongside Speaker Nick Mattiello, and we're joined by Majority Leader Joe Shekarchi. Congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come on your show.
So we're starting the 2017 session off with a bang. This is the first time you're working together as a pair. What are the dynamics between the two of you?
Well, I'll let the speaker answer first.
All right. Joe's a pleasure to work with. We actually have a very good working relationship. We joke with one another. We understand each other's needs, and we have common goals. From a business point of view, our interests are the same, our perspectives are the same, so we work together to move the people's agenda forward, and the relationship works really well. I'm honored to have him on my team.
And I'm equally honored to be on the team. The Speaker had many good people to choose from, and I was fortunate to secure his support for the caucus vote. But I'm excited about it. It's a new position. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying not to make mistakes, especially on the floor when we're on TV. But I'm just trying to be here and service the needs. Every single representative who has asked to meet with me in one way, either a dinner or a lunch or a meeting, I've tried to accommodate them immediately, try to service that, and I try to service the Speaker's agenda, to floor manage the calendar and move the bills forward in an expeditious way, but making sure that everybody's voice gets heard and everybody has a fair shot. I view my role as kind of like a vice presidential role to support the Speaker's agenda and help push that through the General Assembly for the good of the people. And as the Speaker said, it's an easy agenda to support because it's really my agenda. If you look back in my role here over the last 4 years I've been in the General Assembly, I've put a lot of pro-economic, jobs, the economy type bills. That's kind of been where my, power alley is, and it happens to be the same strength as the Speaker. So we are aligned on many issues, not all of them, and not exactly the same, but on the important ones we are together, and hopefully we'll move this forward, the state forward, for the good of all Rhode Islanders.
Well, I know you're both in the building a lot. You can feel the energy in the building. It's always interesting to see the beginning of a session where people do want to get things done. And I know one of the priorities you've been talking about is getting rid of the car tax, either reducing or getting rid altogether. How do we make this a reality?
Well, we first commit that that's what we're going to get done. There's a lot of complications in the process. It's not a perfect system, so the solution's not going to be perfect. But what I've been saying is, just because the solution's not going to be perfect doesn't mean that you don't do what the people ask us to do, and that's to find an imperfect solution to an imperfect system and to give the folks relief from an onerous, burdensome tax. It's one of the highest in the country. That's inappropriate. And I've been a representative for 10 years. The one thing that annoys people, and that's been consistent over that 10 years, is the car tax.
And you hear this from people?
I hear it all the time, every day. So I've come to the conclusion that even though it's going to be difficult, it's the right thing to do.
So it's a large amount of money. It's not like we can just cut this out and try to find the money elsewhere in an easy manner. It's going to take a lot of work both on the state and the municipalities.
Well, it's going to take a lot of work on behalf of the state, because what I've indicated is the municipalities have learned to rely upon this money. This is a municipal tax. It's not a state tax. But our municipal taxes are too high. They make us non-competitive in our national rankings. So we have to address that. And really, the only realistic way to address it is simple but hard. It's the state is going to have to reimburse the cities and towns for the revenues they lose when we tell them that they can no longer charge this tax. We'll take away their authority to charge a tax while reimbursing them for their loss, and we'll move forward. It's a $215 million item, means roughly $40 million a year. We're gonna find $40 million, or roughly $40 million this year and for the next 4 years, and we're going to get rid of it. And the reason I'm so committed to doing this is the will of the people. This is what the people want. And I come here to serve their interests and to make our community better. You can't have a vibrant, healthy, strong community where everybody's rowing in the same direction when folks are so frustrated. So you have to eliminate those things that are frustrating people.
And this is one of the things that does impact everyone in the state, because I know there's other legislation that a certain group would want and others maybe don't really care because it doesn't impact them. This is day to day.
Not only is it day to day, but it's an unfair tax, and this is what I think frustrates a lot of residents of Rhode Island. They have an automobile that's really valued at $10,000, and they're paying taxes on it based as if it was $15,000 or $20,000. So it's unfair inherently. As the speaker said, it's an imperfect tax. So we are going to tackle this issue, and at the end of the day, you'll see the product to be a good product. And I will challenge any representative or senator, for that matter, who would vote against limiting the car tax, because every one of our constituents, it's a broad-based tax that it affects everybody who owns a car, and that's just about everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody in Rhode Island. And as the speaker said, we need to eliminate this tax.
And Margie, if I may, I'm an attorney, so my day job brings me to court a lot. Just this morning I was in court, and a nice gentleman that I've never met before said, "Speaker, you're going to give me that car tax relief, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, you back me up and we'll give you the relief that you're asking for, that you deserve." And I'm hearing that in diners and everywhere. My friends that own diners are telling me everybody's calling for car tax relief. This is really something that resonates with the people, something that the people are demanding, rightfully demanding, that they really care about. They're asking for it, and it affects everybody that owns a car in the state of Rhode Island. So we're going to give them the relief that they deserve, because the government works for the people and not the other way around.
So this is the push. I know that briefly you spoke about your past agenda, that it also impacted people. So it impacted the companies. You want to reduce the tax burden on some of the companies. I know that one of the things that was successful is making sure our retirees can stay in Rhode Island with their families, see their grandchildren grow up, and they also got a bonus of a tax break. So you're working to better the lives of people, but it is slow processes. So now the business are finally seeing some of these sort of the rewards of your past legislation.
Well, I think you're specifically talking about the
yes.
the qualified jobs tax incentive bill, which is something that for 4 years I've been pushing and finally got enacted. And it got enacted because the Speaker made it part of the budget 2 years ago. There are approximately 900 high-paying new jobs in Rhode Island. Those are new jobs, not existing jobs, newly created jobs that are a direct result of that bill. And I introduced that bill several years. It didn't go anywhere. When Speaker Mattiello became the Speaker, he made a commitment to push that bill, and now you see the results of that. That's great, and it has a tremendous effect, because those jobs, most of those jobs are taken by people who already had jobs, so that leaves their old jobs to be filled, and there's an amplifier or multiplier effect to that, and that is very little, almost no tax revenue for the state. The way that it works is the credit that is given to the companies that hire these or create these new jobs and fill them does not get paid until after the person has worked for 1 year and paid state income tax. And their tax credit is essentially the amount of money that was paid by income tax from that job. So it's a great effect. I hope we can work on it, enhance it. Last session, we passed a similar type legislation for insurance companies. That didn't really take effect until very late in the year of 2016. So I'm hopeful that goes forward and we see some insurance companies relocating, expanding, or bringing jobs back here to Rhode Island. So we look to that. And then I'm going to look at the jobs tax credit again this year and see if we can tweak it, because there's a minimum threshold of 10 jobs for high tech, but 20 jobs for manufacturing. So maybe we can bring that manufacturing number down. I'm all about creating jobs, private sector, high-paying jobs. That's what will help move the state forward. Not state jobs and not more state bureaucracy. What will help that is, as the Speaker has committed to, lowering taxes on retirement income, lowering or eliminating the car tax, and creating opportunities for businesses to grow in Rhode Island.
So we have seen some successes lately with 3 different big-name companies coming to Rhode Island, the larger income jobs, which is great. And I know that this is something that, when the governor brought this out during a press conference, she gives kudos to the idea of working with the Speaker of the House, Senate President. So it's been good news lately, and I think that we're all sort of jumping on that, like, okay, good news, good things are happening in Rhode Island. And in the State of the State, she promotes the idea of having free tuition. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we would be the first state in the union to have such a broad-based free tuition policy. So it's going to be something that our Finance Committee takes a fresh look at and studies, and we'll take public testimony and we'll see where the idea goes. So I've got an open mind, and we'll have our finance committee vetted appropriately. Whenever you have new ideas, that's, I think, the best approach to take.
Right. I mean, it'd be great to be first in the country for something new, but at the same time, it's again a big chunk of money.
And I don't know any of the details. We haven't seen the details yet. I haven't been briefed on it, and I've already received emails both for and against the proposal. So as the speaker said, we're getting a fair and honest review. We'll see what happens. Obviously, free anything is good, but how do you pay for it, and is there a residency requirement? I'm hearing bits and pieces of the details. I really am eager to dig into it and find out all the specifics of the program, and we'll look at it honestly, fairly, and give it fair consideration.
Well, the one thing I will say is there's no free in this world.
No,
So it's taxpayer subsidized education at our university, which may be a good thing. I'll reserve my opinion and judgment until after the finance committee has a full and robust hearing on the issue. So we'll see how the debate ends up.
And I think some people's supporters would say it's thinking outside the box. The idea of legalizing marijuana at one point was really thinking outside the box. And that, I know, is going to be another topic for the 2017 session. Are we still just watching Massachusetts to see how they're dealing with it?
Well, what I have said in the past is let's see what Massachusetts does. It's a northern border, and if they legalize it, that's certainly something that we have to consider, because my concern, one of my concerns, is that you have all the problems with the illegal sales being so close to your border, right on your border, without any of the revenue to address those problems that are created, those social costs. However, Massachusetts seems to be taking a step back and considering all of the difficulties and the complexities of passing such new legislation and creating a brand new industry, that it gives me a little pause. Now, sure. What I have said, and I've been saying for the past couple of months, is I have strong proponents and strong opponents to the idea of legalizing marijuana. So we'll see how the hearing goes, and I will give it a good hearing. We'll listen to the experts. We'll listen to the public input, and I think the representatives on the House floor are going to reflect the will of the people in the districts that they represent. So we'll see where the debate takes us, and it's one where I'm sitting back and just watching what direction the debate goes in, and learning from the people. So we'll see.
And at one time there was a thought, wouldn't it be great to be first in New England with this thing? But we're already seeing that Massachusetts is taking baby steps. The retail shops have been put off for 6 months. So maybe there is a benefit to wait and see.
Well, we also have to wait and see what happens out of Washington. We have an Attorney General designee who is on record as saying he's opposing any kind of recreational use of marijuana. And what does that mean? Well, we don't know. So I think it's cautious that you see Massachusetts had delayed implementation for 6 months, that we need to just look at this, monitor it carefully, and see what happens from a national level and a regional level. And then we have a 6 months of session, and then we'll probably come up with some kind of a position as we go. But as the Speaker said, we're going to listen to the rank and file and see where the debate takes us on this issue.
All right, so you brought it up. Washington is changing. Just speculate for me a little bit what you think this new administration is going to bring and how it impacts Rhode Island.
Well, I'm not going to speculate. I've been saying
I
think
cautiously optimistic.
We're going to see what comes our way. It's a new administration, and I'm not sure what impact there is going to be on the state of Rhode Island or other states for that matter. So what I've said is speculation's probably not the best use of our efforts and our time. Let's see what actually happens. I certainly wish President-elect Trump the best. I wish the best for our country, the best for our state, and I think he wishes for the best. So I think he's going to go out and try to create a great economy, try to create policies that move our country in the right direction. I'm not saying I'm going to agree or disagree with any of his policies. I don't know what they are yet. But let's see what he does, hope for the best, and then we'll deal with the financial impacts, plus or minus. And quite frankly, we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what the impact on our state's going to be, and we don't know what our reaction to that should be right now without thoughtful consideration after we know what the situation actually is. So I've tried to stay away from speculation and hope for the best without knowing or having any expectation one way or another regarding what the policies are going to be. I think that's the right thing for our state, and I think as a state we should be supportive of the president-elect. He's going to be our president, and we should be supportive. And whether we disagree with any one of his policies or a lot of his policies, he's our president-elect. We have to hope for the best for our country, and that's certainly what I do. And I'm hopeful that we're going to move in the right direction. And where we don't, if we don't, we'll have to consider it at that point.
I agree with the speaker. I don't think it's productive use of our time. We have a lot of local issues to deal with to kind of speculate on what may or may not happen or what may the Trump administration will give us. What I will say, there's no certainty. The only thing certain is there's a lot of uncertainty with the Trump administration. He seems to, at least initially, be changing his positions or modifying them as we go. Even now, the post-election Trump is different from the pre-election Trump. So maybe there'll be a post-Trump president, which is different than the pre-Trump president-elect. So we don't know.
Say that 5 times.
No, thank you. But the reality is, we'll just deal with the issues as they come. If he passes a very good infrastructure program, we may embrace that. That may be good for Rhode Island. We may get more federal money to help us in so many other areas. But if he passes or pushes upon us something that we don't like, we'll have to address that issue and resist it. To sit here and speculate and spend a lot of time, on what may happen is not productive. So we have real Rhode Island issues to deal with, and we're going to work on those, and we'll watch the federal issues, and we'll address them when and if we ever have to.
So we're talking about the infrastructure. Of course, that was the main topic of conversation for the 2016 session. Already, people are seeing the results of roadworks. Things are getting fixed. The signs that are on the highway, some are actually saying before budget, before done. I mean, that's great news for Rhode Island.
It is. You can't have a successful economy and have the worst infrastructure, the worst bridges in the country. Just the reputation of that hurts you. And outside companies are not going to want to come in. So it surprised me that was their number one consideration, but it is. And with the movement forward in improving our infrastructure, that certainly sends the right message to the business community. And the business community recognizes that Rhode Island's moving in the right direction. We're more competitive from a tax perspective. Our infrastructure is improving. We've invested a lot in education, and we're moving, the education needs of our students in the right direction. And we're going to keep doing the types of things that are necessary to move our economy in the right direction. Infrastructure was of vital importance, and I'm glad we tackled that last session. And we'll keep an eye on it. We'll provide oversight. We'll make sure that it's implemented appropriately and as cost-effective and efficiently as possible for the citizens of the state. But it was ultimately a good program for our citizens. And it's going to move our business community in the right direction, which I'm very pleased with, because, as you know, jobs in the economy is what I always concentrate on.
When you're traveling, I know you both travel out of state quite a bit, does it help to be able to say that we're on these things? Where a couple of years ago, you're still saying, I know we're going to have to address this. But for the overall climate for Rhode Island, does it help to say that, we're 6 months into our roadworks project, we're changing the schools?
Sure it does. But not only that, when the speaker spoke earlier about our national rankings, one of the factors, a significant factor, is they take into consideration the condition of our infrastructure. And as you said, we are addressing it. We have a plan. The plan's in place. The plan is working. You're seeing results. And I think that helps. When you talked earlier about the companies that are coming here to Rhode Island, the General Electric, the Virgin, Wexford, and Virgin Health coming here, they see what's happening. They see that we have, in Rhode Island, have had a history of addressing these issues, and short-term history, last 5 years. Before that, there was always a thought in the state government of pushing issues down the road. Mm-hmm. But this speaker has addressed these issues, and we're moving forward. This General Assembly has addressed these issues. So it has a positive impact, and you're seeing the results.
And if I may, Margie, whenever I travel, whenever I go to a conference, folks know what's going on. Sometimes it surprises me that people outside of the state actually have a more accurate perspective on what's going on in Rhode Island than we do. They know we're moving in the right direction. Nationally, we're recognized as lowering our tax rates and moving in a more competitive direction. And sometimes when you're too close to it, you don't see it. When you don't see it as much. But I find that folks nationally and people that are involved in economics and in politics recognize that Rhode Island's moving in a direction presently that it has not moved in the past, and it's all positive feedback. I get all positive feedback outside the borders of the state.
That's great to hear. Now, I know one of the things that you're on top of is greater oversight. So the state legislature has formed committees dealing with the Tourism Commission and then also oversight of some of the other agencies. And that's also to move people forward, correct? Accountability, making sure that certain things don't happen.
Absolutely. Our government has to work for the people in an efficient manner, in a cost-effective manner, in an appropriate manner. And our oversight committee is something that we're ramping up because we do have separation of powers. We appropriate, and the executive branch administers the government. And they have control over the implementation of plans and programs. It's our duty and our function to provide oversight. So we're getting more active in oversight because where there are inefficiencies, we have to find them, and we have to work with the executive branch and make sure that we eliminate those inefficiencies and provide a government that works best and appropriately for our citizens. And we have had missteps, and we're there to provide the oversight and to make sure that our government's moving in the right direction. We have to all recognize that we serve the people. Every state employee, and we have hardworking, wonderful employees. I'm very proud of them. But they're paid by the people to serve the people, to work for the people, and we have to provide those services efficiently and appropriately. And that doesn't always happen. So when it doesn't, we'll be there to oversee and try to move us in the right direction.
So, for example, we've had some computer errors that have impacted people. We've had tax refunds that were not sent out. But the idea of the legislative oversight committees on this, does that change the negativity in the state?
I think it does. First of all, I think people need to, and I really want to compliment Representative Serpa, who's chairwoman of the House Oversight Committee. She's doing an excellent job. People want to know what's happened. They want to know what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what is happening to correct the problem. And as the speaker said, who's going to be accountable for the wrong? So you see that process playing itself out right now with the UHIP hearings, and Representative Serpa is doing a wonderful job, and I think people appreciate that. They feel like there's some faith in government. Someone is answering questions. All of those committees are televised. They're all open to the public. The public can ask questions either directly by showing up at the hearing or through emails or to contacting the representative. So it is an accountability, and I think it's good and healthy for the system. It's transparency. It's people can understand what's happening and know that there's a problem, and we're trying to get it corrected and fixed. Because ultimately, in the House of Representatives, we're the people's house. The people have the most contact with their local representatives, more so than their senator and more so than their executive branch. So they contact us, and we can say, well, there's an oversight committee going on. Look at it, attend it, send an email to somebody on the committee. We'll get answers to that, and they can find out what's going on. And ultimately, it helps the whole negativity of government, because now you have a process of check and a balance of what happened, and the press reports it. And I have to compliment, you and all of our system here. We have an unbelievable, state interconnect. We televise everything. People are aware of what's going on. We have shows like this. You do spotlights. People want to know and hear and see from their representatives, and this show and this house and this vehicle provides that. It's good open government.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased that Chairwoman Serpa has a robust agenda. She's going to be moving to all different departments in government and making sure that they're working efficiently, and where they're not, exposing it, and we'll work with the executive branch on making suggestions. But as I've indicated, it's their responsibility. We have no role in the implementation of our government. We provide the oversight and let the folks, let our citizens and our constituents know where the problems are, and it's up to the executive branch working with us to straighten those out.
All right, we just have a couple minutes left. Any other items on the agenda that you really hope we'll see fruition this session?
Well, I always concentrate on the budget. When a session starts, I've already got my eyes and my focus on the budget. The governor is going to give us her budget, I think, on Thursday. So our finance committee will start working on it. I'll dive into it, start studying it, and we'll work on producing a budget for our citizens that's well balanced. We have different interests in society. We try to address all of our communities, our various needs, and produce a budget that serves everybody, that everybody's proud of. And I'm very pleased that in the 3 budgets that I've overseen as Speaker, they've been balanced and they've addressed all of the needs that were out there in an appropriate way. And we'll try to do that again this year. And the budget is the controlling document for everything that happens in the state. So jobs and the economy is my priority. You will see that priority reflected in the budget, and you will see the car tax, my car tax priority, reflected in the budget. There will be meaningful relief this year, and I want it totally repealed in 5 years. So do the math, $40 million a year, and some years might be a little less, a little more, right. But we're going to get at that $215 million number within 5 years, and we're going to make our constituents proud, because this is a hard thing to do, and they're going to see that their government's really working for them to get a hard thing done, and really considering their needs first and foremost, and eliminating one of their burdens that is so frustrating. So I'm pleased to dive into that and to work on that issue and get it done for our citizens.
All right, and staying with jobs and the economy, the main theme.
Absolutely. And to do a good job as the majority leader with my membership and the Speaker, and try to move the agenda of the people and the House agenda through smoothly.
All right. How about the overall feeling? I know we have some new faces on the floor. Is there a sense of bringing these people in and saying, let's get to work?
We have a great freshman class in the House of Representatives. They come from different walks of life. They bring different talents and expertise to the House, and they're eager to work, and they're great people. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of them and getting their input and having them and their communities reflect part of our final product, which is the budget and all the legislation that we pass.
And I know that we've got to meet them through their campaigns and that kind of thing. Was it important to look at their backgrounds, look at their expertise before the committee appointments came out? So you're getting the right people on the right committees.
We try, as I've indicated, we've done some vetting to make sure that there's nothing that will surprise us in folks taking leadership positions. But we look at their individual talents and their preference, because we ask everyone where they want to serve, and I think we got almost everybody on the committee that they want to serve, which is probably where their talents are. So I'm just looking forward to working with everybody and building those new relationships and getting their input and their community's input through them, and I think that's the beauty of our system. You take 75 of us, you put us together, and we come up with a compromise product that serves the entire state of Rhode Island. And it's not always easy, but it's very rewarding. And we've had 3 great budgets, and I'm looking forward to this being my 4th in a row.
Tremendous amount of energy. You asked before, getting them to work. It's getting them to work slowly, because there's a lot of energy in the freshman class. There's a lot of enthusiasm, and it's exciting to see somebody. And I'm the eternal optimist. I think this is going to be a good year. I think I'm going to really work hard to get good relationships with the House, but also the Senate and the Minority Caucus. We really want to get things done this year, and everybody says that every year, but there's a real renewed optimism. Sure. And the freshman class, they seem very eager to work and to go to all the committees and introduce legislation and draft legislation. So it's an exciting time, and I think you see good things happening with the state. As you mentioned before, some of the economic development, we're now seeing tangible results, and that only encourages people to double down and work harder.
All right, we're going to share your optimism.
Great.
With everyone. Thank you very much, Majority Leader Joe Shekarchi, for joining us, alongside Speaker Nick Mattiello and Margie O'Brien. This was our first open house of the 2017 legislative session, and we thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.